Thank you. The next person is Stephen, H-E-R-I-N-G. So that makes start.
Yeah, it's Stephen Hines, and I'm from Cumberland, Forsyth, Maine, and I'm representing Sebago chapter of Trout Unlimited. The spelling of my name is H-E-I-N-Z. Sebago chapter has about 625 members. They live in southwestern Maine. Our membership area is from Yarmouth southwest to New Hampshire, so the Mousam River watershed is really pretty much right in the center of the coastal portion of our membership area. And I'll tell you, when you do go to take your site visit tomorrow and go down to Route 1 there, right by Duffy's, and look southwest across the Route 1 bridge, you're going to see two things. You're going to look downstream, and you're going to see a trout stream. You're going to see some beautiful water, and certain times of the year, you're going to see people fishing there, and they're going to be enjoying their fishing because there's some decent trout fishing there. We're going to look upstream, and you're going to see a big wall, and you're not going to see anything that lets marine organisms get upstream or downstream like they would like to. And there's really a lot of contrast there, and it's an amazing contrast. And really, what we were hoping the process is going to result in is a return to a more natural environment. And I think when you're taking that view, it's not going to be hard to figure out which one of the environments is the natural one. This is also some really, crucial environment, some special environment here too. The trout there, once upon a time, could go up and down from freshwater to saltwater. And if there was an abundant food source, grass shrimp, something like this, they'd eat those and then hightail it back, on the next tide back upstream into the fresh water. And we'd like, going forward, if the potential licensee is really serious about trying to do something to keep the environment appropriate, really what they're going to need to do is figure out a way to restore that. That's what the natural course should have been. Right now, the dams, what are they doing to the natural environment? They're limiting the very small fishery that exists right now. They're making the water warmer. They're making it so it cannot hold oxygen. They're really doing a lot of things that make that less suitable for a trout. The other thing that they're doing is they're keeping sediments of the good sort, gravels, those things, from flowing downstream with the water, which is part of the natural process that maintains a river system. And we really think that there are no adequate studies in place that address either how we could, this environment that is left could be maximized, or sea-run fish passage restored. I guess the last thing I'd like to say is that really this could be, if those dams were gone, the best coastal trout fishery south of Penobscot Bay. I have no doubt about it. The 9 miles we're talking about, you've got good gradients, you've got good water, and you've got good gravels there that are conducive to production of trout. That is really what should be there. And I guess I'm just asking for, please hold the applicants to the highest standards.
Thank you. Next person is Jacob, A-M-A-N.
Hi, my name is Jacob, J-A-C-O-B, Aman, A-M-A-N, and I work at the Wells National Estuarine Research Reserve, which is located in Wells, Maine, just down the street. And the reserve has conducted a number of limited studies starting in 2009 of both water quality and fisheries in the Mousam River. And none of these studies, I would not describe any of these studies as comprehensive, but we do have presence-absence data for diatomous and resident fish species in the Mousam River. And I can say that that species list includes American shad, blueback herring, alewives, striped bass, rainbow smelt, and American eel. We've also undertaken a study of water temperature in the impounded reaches between Kesslen Dam and Old Falls Dam. And that study is available on our website. And I'm going to submit a list of the studies that we've conducted along with where those documents can be found. We've also conducted some video documentation of fish in the river below Kesslen Dam, and for what they're worth, those videos are available online as well, and I'll submit references to those. And so I guess one question that I have, and I appreciate the information about being able to access example studies for other relicensing processes, because I think that's going to be useful in making my comments. One thing I'd be interested to know is, from a fisheries standpoint, what type of information would FERC be looking for to help inform this process? In other words, is presence absence adequate information to inform the study, to inform this process moving forward, or would there be something more quantitative needed? Because I think, you know, as the years have gone by, there have been some references to the limited work that we've done, and I think that people have erroneously concluded that there's minimal fisheries potential in the Mousam River based on the limited catch data, and that's all based on limited effort. And those studies were not designed to quantify population size in any way. I think there's been some references to that information over the years. So if you could clarify what type of information you'd be looking for, I think that would help. It would certainly help me in my recommendations for what additional information ought to be sought by the applicant.
Okay, thank you very much. Stay there just in case we have back and forth. We deal with a wide range of information in the record and have at multiple different hydro proceedings over the years. So obviously, everyone prefers lots of very quantitative data, but in reality, that's often not what we have to work with in the NGOs and agencies making recommendations, and then FERC considering those recommendations and determining whether they end up as license conditions. So really anything you have with presence abundance, as well as run timing, or if you have any historical information about where spawning areas might have been historically within the basin that are now obstructed, anything is useful for our analysis. You know, the more information we have, the better our analysis can be. As you know, with regard to fish passage, Fish and Wildlife Service and National Marine Fisheries Service, and also the DEP, have, if they choose, the authority to prescribe or require passage measures, and sometimes they rely on very quantitative data, and sometimes they rely on presence absence, and usually they have an administrative record that supports their recommendation and can be challenged. There are always checks and balances, but at this stage in the process, if you have something that you think would inform the licensing decision in the way of data, absolutely submit it, make us aware of it, and make it the whole group of stakeholders aware of it. And then if you have a study request that you feel needs to be conducted in order for us to probably look at the range of issues, just provide the most detailed justification you can. One of the most important criteria of the 7 is nexus, how the project affects the resource. So making that case, describing the level of effort, describing existing conditions and why, or existing information and why we couldn't go forward with existing data, how a new study would be necessary for us to do our job. Those are all things to consider, and that applies to fisheries and any resource area, recreation, for example, as well. Like if you have information about usage in the, number of anglers, number of kayakers, that information can get into the record and would help inform whether additional study is necessary. So the specific answer is, not every study is justified on very quantitative data. Sometimes less quantitative data is enough to require a study. And it depends also what we find out during this process about what already exists. Also, I heard, I won't put him on the spot, but I heard earlier today someone mentioning that he thought hickory shad might be in the area as well. Or does that, do you know whether they've been located in the Mousam?
No, none of our studies have documented hickory shad.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's very helpful, so thank you. And I think that we would recommend that additional study of the fisheries in the Mousam should be conducted. I think on one hand to expand the temporal scale of the data that's been collected so far, because none of our studies have fully documented the total temporal range of any of the spawning runs of these species. And I think also another piece of information that we'd like to provide is an analysis that we conducted, a GIS analysis that quantifies the habitat productivity potential for shad and alewives and blueback herring in upstream reaches of the river. And that analysis is based on methodology that's used by the Department of Marine Resources, which was published in management plan for the Presumpscot River. Now, I don't know if there are any representatives from the Department of Marine Resources that are going to submit comments or they're here today. And that information, along with our fisheries data, has been shared with the department as well. So it may be that some of this information comes in from multiple directions, but that's something that we'll share too. And I'm assuming that that type of information would be required in any sort of fish passage engineering studies in order to determine what type of fish passage would be needed for the numbers of fish that would have the potential to return each year. But if that would be useful, we can provide that information as well.
Yeah, that does sound like information that would be useful for our analysis and for determining the rationale for studies.
Yep. Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Next person is Kyle Scardino.
He's the person who said he might have.
He left, okay, okay, good. Is that Lance Hudson?
My name is Landis Hudson, Landis, Hudson, Hudson. And I'm here on behalf of Maine Rivers, and I'm from Yarmouth. I would like to thank you all for coming here to learn about this river. Speaking on behalf of Maine Rivers, we take a wide view and work throughout the state. As I've been hearing people's comments, I'm reminded that 50 years ago, we had sewage and other contaminants flowing through this river and other rivers in Maine. So the work that's been done in Maine, following the Clean Water Act, has cleaned up our rivers tremendously, and it's something we can all be proud of. However, the work is not done. Just because we're not seeing raw sewage in our rivers, just because we don't have point sources of pollution, our native species in rivers like the Mousam should be at much higher levels than they are. In some of my work learning about this river, I spent time in the archives, in libraries, looking into the history of the river. And yes, this river did have diagenous species, sea-run species, which we believe should be present going forward. As such, we would be very interested in making sure that although America First Hydro does not propose to construct or modify any new project facilities or change project operations at this time, we believe that fully and adequately addressing the needs of sea-run fish is absolutely necessary. And I would like to make sure that the economics and the logistics of doing this are fully and completely thought through as early in the process as possible. If you do indeed find yourselves at Duffy's and perhaps have a tour of the facility, you might want to ask how this could be done. The dam is right there, the generating facility is tightly located within the building. Putting fish passage into the Kesslen Dam would be a major economic and logistical undertaking. I've thought about it. I think it's certainly challenging. Similarly, any form of upgrading or changing the hydropower mechanisms would be similarly, obviously economically challenging, and I think logistically challenging as well. So I would ask you to keep that in mind, and thank you for your work on this.
Thank you. Next person on the list is John Leto.
I'm John Poletto. Last name is spelled Polletto. I live at 70 Fletcher Street, right here in Kennebunk. The Mousam River goes right by my backyard. I have a stormwater runoff culvert that goes through my property with the outfall going directly. Pardon me? Step back just a little. House? Yeah. I live at 70 Fletcher Street, and I have a stormwater runoff culvert that terminates, it goes through my property, terminates at the Mousam River. I've noticed in the past when Kennebunk Light and Power District has drawn down the water level of the river to work on equipment. I live just right above the Kesslen Dam. I've noticed that a finger structure of land that was submerged when the river was at its normal depth is now appearing. And what's happening is that the outfall from the culvert gets trapped at this now finger formation of land that's now above the river level. So I have an environmental concern here. If the dams are taken down and the width of the river is greatly reduced, this finger width of land is going to appear. I'm going to have trapped stagnant water between the outfall from the culvert and this finger formation of land. If this produces a mosquito breeding ground, which I'm afraid is going to happen, if this happens, well, I have the right to request dredging to remove this finger strip of land. And if the dredging is approved, will I be financially responsible for it, since I'm talking about the part of the river that goes directly by my backyard? And I understand, I don't know for certain, I understand there are other stormwater runoff culverts in the Mousam as well. So I don't know if my situation is one of a kind, or if this might apply to other culverts. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. That's definitely a difficult issue, bringing our attention to it. I guess the quick way to answer it is that we are here today in general to discuss the proposal in front of us, and that is the America First proposal. And so an issue issue that could involve potential dam removal down the road and how that could affect the local environment would be at issue in a separate proceeding later down the road. And if that proceeding was initiated, then those environmental issues that you brought up would be handled in that proceeding.
Rachel Phipps.
Hi, Rachel Phipps, R-A-C-H-E-L P-E-H-I-P-P-S. I'm a resident of Kennebunk, and no association other than that I'm a passionate, unscientific environmentalist. And my husband says you come here today and go, whoa, 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 because I'm speaking for the fish, because they can't be here speaking for themselves. I also left work today to be here. It's that important to me. Just so you know, tonight might be more crowded, but Kennebunk High School's holiday concert is this evening at 7 o'clock. So you're going to be missing a lot of people that might have been here otherwise. That's why I left work to be here. I'm sad that Ian just left the room, because I actually feel like I'm making my remarks to America First as well as FERC, since this is the first time we've had any chance to communicate with them. I just wanted to say, first of all, I just want to take the vote issue head on, because, I am in Kennebunk. I voted every single vote for the last, 30 years I've lived here. I got involved with this issue after the vote because I was so angry at the petition that was put on our ballot. I felt it was incredibly manipulative. It was a very, it was a strategic move by a group that has, really advocated around a particular issue. I mean, that's their right to do that, but the vote had zero fiscal note, had absolutely no figures on it, none. And there were also no alternatives given. It said, do you want to continue hydropower? It didn't say versus, or would you like to remove the dams, or would you like to, it had no alternatives. So I just have to take the issue of the vote head on, and I would really want to request that America First Hydro in their PowerPoint, first time I've seen that as well, they said that they have support of the town of Kennebunk. I don't know how they define that. I'm here as a resident to say that, again, with no association, there are lots and lots of us that live in this town that support decommissioning and removing the dams and restoring the river to its natural state. I use the river below the Kesslen Dam a lot. I actually find it really hard as just a member of the public to access recreation on the upper dam. That's sort of all public property. It's all private property. It's very hard, sort of as the public to access it. I also, I heard on America First slideshow again, twice talking about the importance for them of maintaining the property values on the impoundments. Well, I don't really think that's a ratepayer issue, and there's as much research to show that the property values remain the same after dams have been removed. So I really hope that's not America First Hydro's focus there, because that, as a ratepayer that does not live on the impoundments, I would not appreciate that. So I want to say too that I support dam removal, and I also want to say right here that I would not support our town being involved in any way in funding any kind of licensing, because I have looked at the numbers, I've looked at the data, and I don't see how that will ever be financially, fiscally responsible for our town. All right, so I think that's really what I need to say. Thank you very much. I do appreciate you being here and taking this comment.
Okay, thank you. Paul, you signed this list. Do you have a comment, or are you good? Okay. All right. The next person is that Kenny DeCoster?
I was going to speak this evening.
Okay, that's fine. So moving on. Peter Ashley.
Peter Ashley from Cape Nedick. I helped build 2 of the dams. Been interested in hydropower my whole life. And engineering from Boston University. Before I spoke about the contaminants in the water, and those contaminants are coming down the river, but how fast? Whenever you're interested in hydropower, you want to know how many pounds of water, cubic feet per second, are going by and at what kind of a slope, and what kind of an opportunity you might find somewhere to get a solid base tied to the planet so the dam won't move. And then you get really interested and forget to eat. So this is a problem I've had all the way through all these years, is hearing comments from people, reading comments from people, or looking at government documents, and I find incorrect statements, information that's misstated or twisted. So this sheet here has to do with this sheet to go together, and the first one is the dam crest at Kesslen is 14 feet, not 18 feet. It was designed that way, and the turbine was bought in 1928 from the James Leffel Company, and I talked with the manager there. He pulled out the card within a few seconds and gave the information about the turbine, number W1451, type F, Francis runner, diameter 40.5 inches, et cetera, tied directly to a Schenectady, New York General Electric Company manufactured it. It's not a Kaplan, as another document says, it's a Francis. It doesn't have any speed increaser or reducer, and it's been running faithfully for many, many years, 1928. So that's in this sheet here, but in order to run properly, you're going to know the head and the pond level and the tailwater level, and that's based on the mean sea level when you're doing surveying. And this is a report from Mr. Kyle Braga. When they redid the bridge out here, they put in a new survey marker in the concrete sidewalk about 15 feet southwest of the corner of Duffy's Restaurant, and that's mentioned in here. The disc, the new grid, national grid, is mentioned in here, and the relationship and his phone number, so that you can deal with him directly, and he's in the property office of the Maine DOT. It's not USGS anymore, it's DOT. It's put the marker in there, and all the information is in here. So the pond level is incorrect. The scale on the side wall of the pond that the dam operator uses, that indicates the improper number of the level of the water. So I think this should be added, and I think that's just about it, except that when you have a slope and you're making water move to get it off the land and get it back in the ocean again, you want to know what the velocity is, and when you're talking about fish, you want to know about the velocity of the eggs when they adhere to the bottom. When they hatch, they're in the position of floating down with the currents. It doesn't take more than a few minutes to figure out that the time it takes for an alewife to drop its yolk sac and start freely swimming is longer than it takes to flow downstream from the big dam upstream all the way to the ocean. So it's kind of a miracle if too many of them get there to the ocean. There's a lot of hungry fish and other crabs, etc., below Kesslen waiting to eat them. So, but this is very important for you and everybody interested in this project, and you get your new data.
Thank you.